Welcome to Rich Planet TV. I'm Richard D. Hall. Since first appearing on Rich Planet TV over 5 years ago, today's guest has established himself as an authority on a subject you will struggle to find covered comprehensively in university courses. Do you ever stop to think about your thoughts? Have you ever considered that your thoughts are being steered without your knowledge? Are you really in control of your thoughts? I'd like to welcome back onto the show mind control researcher and the author of Your Thoughts Are Not Your Own, Neil Saunders. Welcome, Neil. Welcome, Neil.
On the phone, Richard.
All right.
Sorry, hang on. Just there. Sorry, I've just got to go on Facebook and check what we're all offended about, otherwise I won't have anything to talk about, I'm afraid.
Right.
So, and I'd best just tweet a lie as well, because otherwise people won't be impressed with my life. So, hang on. Just water skiing with Colin Farrell. Marvellous. There you go.
Right.
Yeah, crack on. You sure you don't want to do this via text?
Well, my phone switched off, Neil. I switched it off because we're doing an interview.
Well, then how do you know what's going on in the world? Like, honestly. I mean, first of all, let me just say, okay, what is wrong with people taking loads and loads and loads of photos of themselves, right? There's something distinctly psychologically insecure about taking loads and loads of photos of yourself, particularly if you're doing the duck face selfie, which is this sort of Joker face. Like, you're taking photos of yourself a lot, which is, it shows distinct narcissism, and then you alter your face so that you look like a sort of cheap Chinese sex doll. So why?
Right. Well, Neil set the context for what we're going to talk about today there. We're going to talk about social media. But I mentioned in the intro there, Neil, that you were first on 5 years ago, and I think quite a lot has changed with respect to the internet over 5 years.
Absolutely.
Because social media was certainly less well used 5 years ago, when it was probably just getting going, I would have thought. And there was more than one social media site. Now we just seem to have this one Facebook, which seems to have overtaken them all.
I mean, you asked me, like, I think it was like the second show or something like this, like, how do you feel that the internet has helped you with research like this? And I think I said at the time, so the internet's fine. It's like a library. Okay, there's good information on there and there's bad information on there. There's not an awful lot of information that's on the internet that you couldn't find in other places. It's just sort of the ease that people can reach it. The problem is that basically if you use the analogy of a library, most people are just using the books to hammer nails in. They're not actually using them for their proper purpose.
Right.
The other thing is that
they're using them for specific sort of point proving, or
they're using them as weapons. They're
Yes.
using points as ammunition a lot of the time, rather than sort of as a discourse.
Right.
The other thing is that I am actually genuinely concerned that if some people drown, the only thing that they're going to see flash before their eyes is a series of different mobile phone screens.
This is when someone's life flashes before their eyes when they die.
Their life, such as it is, yeah, absolutely.
You could just play their Facebook page or their timeline.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is, because people are so connected with this. It's like an umbilical cord, basically.
Well, we'll expand on that, Neil, in this interview. Now, I gave a lecture a little while ago now, talking about subversion and demoralization, and I went through, well, non-internet techniques, like mainstream media or things, laws being passed, all kinds of things that I think is going on in the UK, that the Soviets were running a subversion campaign.
Okay, yeah.
And what I said was, regarding the internet, I said you could do a whole new chart, like the one that I've just shown, just for Facebook.
Yeah.
I.e. how it is subversive or damaging or what have you, and that's really what we're going to try and expand on in today's talk. But just to say that we're at risk of being considered too bitter, I'm middle-aged, middle-aged,
I'm getting there.
middle-aged men. Are we just cynical, bitter, middle-aged men complaining
people don't
at Facebook?
appreciate, when I was young, all this internet was all fields, Richard, and it's just not anymore, is it? No, obviously, there is an aspect of that. And just to sort of reiterate, that like anything, it's a medium. Social media is a medium. A library is a medium. A hammer's a medium. They can be used in positive ways and they can be used in negative ways. What my concern is that the setup of social media and the internet, particularly in general, sort of encourages people to go to fall into patterns of sort of for want of a better expression, bad behaviour, or sort of, you know, they put on put on like an act or adopt roles or something. And I think the actual sort of setup of the internet is sort of like, it leads into that. I mean, there's a quote here that I've got. It said, the main problem with the internet is that the wealth of available information batters and flatters people into a position of gullible acceptance. We tend to gravitate towards articles and quotes that support our suppositions with confirmation bias, ignoring evidence that disproves or questions our beliefs, and we rarely fact check. That quote's from Albert Einstein in a 1998 interview that he gave to Reader's Wives magazine. How do I know that's true? Well, I found it on the internet. Just in case anybody, a magazine is like a 3D blog. It's like you can hold it in your hands. It's not like the internet, basically. So
right. So what's your point about the quotations that people on Facebook are not checking the sources?
Yeah, I mean that's I've just made that quote up, obviously, but it sounds like it has authority or it has gravitas, and so you get a lot of sort of things where people either misquote or they assume that just because it's a meme, it's true. And as I say, the point stands that people don't tend to fact check. We were talking just before we came on, is that the Freud quote that is bandied around that he never ever said, and there's numerous things. There was a Cracked article recently. It says, you know, famous misquotes from people that people never said and such like that. The Freud one is like is basically along the lines of, if you're depressed, are you sure that you're not just surrounded by assholes? And no, it's not Freud. That's never been attributed to Freud, but it's somehow become sort of popular in the sort of internet lexicon, basically.
All right, Neil. Well, tell us what Zimbardo means.
Well, I mean, the point about the internet is that it doesn't require facts, because of the nature of it, it's sort of a very quick medium and stuff like that, so it requires variety and immediacy just to keep people interested for a time. It doesn't really require accuracy or longevity. Philip Zimbardo was a social scientist or social psychologist, and he did a series of investigations that some people will have heard of. The sort of two famous ones were the Stanford Prison experiment and a car experiment. The car experiment, just to sort of briefly explain, and this might be a sort of analogous, but basically the point is that he left two cars, one in a very built-up area, like a city, like a major city, with the bonnet up and the door open. And he left a similar car in a rural community. And according to Zimbardo's
with the bonnet open and
the
door?
Yeah, so they're both the same. And basically what he discovered, or according to this, the proposed results of this experiment, in the city, within 5 minutes, they'd taken the battery, they'd stolen everything of any value, and just, you know, left it there. Whereas in the rural community, somebody had shut the door, closed the bonnet. I believe they'd even fixed a spark plug or something like that. And to be quite honest, it sounds a bit folksy, but the point is that what Zimbardo suggested was that the anonymity provided by a large city, because you've got so many people, because it's such a large area or something, because you don't feel that you're sort of on show, that this allows you to sort of act in ways that you wouldn't normally, you know, you would transgress your normal personality, because you can get away with that.
Right. I
Similarly, with the Stanford Prison experiment, which is more famous, essentially, it's what Big Brother was based on. The people that probably know about this, they split people into adopted roles, prisoners or guards, and then they had to sort of act out these roles. Now, very soon, the people who were designated the prisoners got annoyed with the fact that they were being treated seemingly unfairly, and so they started to rebel against the people who had adopted the roles of guards. The experiment was cancelled because the guards ended up taking the prisoners into the basement and torturing them with a fire extinguisher, and so they had to do it, because basically what happened is they'd taken on the role so seriously that they were actually just, you know, playing a part. One of the things that they found that was most sort of significant, and that was the fact that all the guards had aviators, you know, mirrored glasses or whatever. And it found that basically just something as simple as a pair of dark glasses or something like that, it provides the separation that allows you to sort of mentally move away from the subject. And another example of this is you would see interviews with journalists and such, and they'll say that when they're in a war scenario or something, they'll find themselves very, very like really intently looking through the viewfinder, because basically it's not real then. There's that separation that sort of your brain sort of makes that separation. The problem is that when you do this on the internet, both of those circumstances seem to occur. You get the anonymity and you also get the de-individuation, which is the fact that you can blend into the crowd and nobody's going to catch you and stuff like that.
Like the analogy of leaving the car in the city.
Exactly, exactly. The problem with this is that basically, again, on the internet, this allows people to adopt roles, and all that this encourages is people to act like arseholes. Like, because they feel they can get away with it. The 2 points, the de-individuation and the separation, it encourages basically people to be horrible. And you combine that with, say, a fragile ego or some sense of identity that is gained through that particular point that you're trying to make or whatever, and you're going to get all sorts of horrible vitriol flying around, basically.
So just to turn that around, Neil, so what you're saying is if you remove any moral scrutiny, people will behave badly or can behave badly. So is that not indicating what the true, if you had no restraints or anything that was no laws, nothing keeping you in your moral box, if you like, would everyone behave in this abhorrent way that some people do on Facebook?
No, not necessarily, but it's basically people tend to go along with the crowd. This is exactly the same psychological reason that people get involved in riots, for example. Gustave Le Bon talks about this sort of hypnotic effect that comes over people. This is why fish swim together in shoals, because you look like one big fish rather than a thing. So it's that strength in numbers. And hypnotically what happens is you tend to adopt the ethos of the group. You sort of sacrifice your own psychological makeup and your own ego, so to speak, in order to become part of this group that is stronger. It's incredibly, incredibly psychologically reassuring to be part of a group.
Perhaps a lot of parents might be interested in this particular show, or anyone really who knows people who are incessantly using social media, in particular Facebook, and we're going to explore more of this in the rest of today's interview. And in particular, next we're going to talk about social media dependency. Welcome back. I'm talking to Neil Sanders about social media, and Neil will assert that phones and social media are addictive.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, totally. I mean, there is a standardised name for it. It's nomophobia now. It's the fear of being without your phone.
Nomophobia?
Yeah.
It's not the fear of gnomes?
No. If anyone ever used to read Viz, they had a particular fear about gnomes creeping into your house and doing things to your chip pan. It's nothing to do with that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, essentially, yeah, people fall in love with their phones. Now, why this is slightly more complicated. It could be to do with the sort of the perceived societal impact of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm living the dream, I've got my iPhone or whatever. I mean, the gist of it is this. I mean, it sounds very, very strange.
So this is a Harvard study in 2011.
I believe it was Harvard. It was reported in the New York Times.
Right.
It basically said, so a smartphone's addictive, medically speaking. Some psychologists suggest that using our iPhones and BlackBerries may tap into the same associative learning pathways in the brain that make other compulsive behaviours like gambling so addictive. And basically, during this experiment, in each instance, the results showed activation of both the audio and visual cortices of the subject's brains. In other words, when they were exposed to the video, which is of an iPhone, our subjects' brains didn't just see the vibrating iPhone, they heard it too. And when they were exposed to the audio, they also saw it in their mind's eyes. And this powerful cross-sensory phenomenon is known as synesthesia, which is, smelling, colours, that sort of thing. But most strikingly of all was the flurry of activation in the insular cortex of the brain, which is associated with feelings of love and compassion. The subjects' brains responded to the sound of their phones as they would respond to the presence or proximity of a girlfriend, boyfriend, or family member. In short, the subjects didn't demonstrate the classic brain-based signs of addiction. Instead, they actually had fallen in love with their iPhones.
Right, so it's not so much akin to addiction to your phone, it's more akin to being in love with your phone.
There's different. There is the addiction to both social media and to your actual phone, just being close to your phone, but also because of the sort of powerful advertising presence of iPhone and the image that is associated with that lifestyle. It really sort of hammers it home. I mean, smartphones basically. Two things, right?
So just for those who don't know, Neil, what's the difference between a normal telephone and a smartphone?
Go on the internet on it, as far as I know. I don't.
It's Well, it will do Facebook.
Yeah,
Right.
as far as I know. And basically, this is an interesting thing, right? These are all stress-saving devices, right? Okay, to make your life easier, your smartphone, your laptop, and stuff like that.
Ostensibly.
Yeah, laptop. That's amazing. It means basically my life will be easier. No, it means you can work on the train as well now. Smartphones increase stress in users. Do you ever see people doing that? Oh, I thought my phone was ringing. Well, that's an indication that you're addicted to it, because your brain is searching out that dopamine response that you get when you get someone's on my phone to me, that's wonderful. To me, doing this, being constantly on your smartphone, it's not massively dissimilar from pulling the duvet over your head to hide from monsters. And it's probably about as effective. It doesn't cancel out the real world, it just blinkers you to it.
And what about reduction in social skills? Because you've singled out teens.
Well, I mean, recently,
Is it fair to do that, do you think?
Yes.
So reduction in social skills and social interaction and personal development.
Well,
so you think they're all being negatively affected by social media and smartphones?
I've read studies that basically say that yes, this is the effect, basically, because it's easier to talk to somebody online and stuff like that. It's easier to talk to someone over the phone because of the separation, because of all this. Right. Social media makes you less social by definition. If you've got time to be on Facebook, you're not out doing stuff, are you? Which is really, really, really strange. But you get 2 points. You get people exhibiting what's called drug-seeking behaviour, looking after the phone, which is basically, I don't know the answer to that, so I'll Google it. I'll just check on my phone, all right? So don't check on your phone. Don't show me your photos. Just have a conversation. Do you remember what life was like before we had mobile phones, right?
Tell me what smiling depression is.
Well, this is the other problem, is that basically people tend to, I mean, obviously it promotes narcissism, but it also promotes loneliness, because basically the whole point is impressing another group of people that aren't actually there. So you're getting your reassurance. You're getting a thing where when interviewed, particularly teenage girls find that they feel more attractive online because their photo, they can tweak it or whatever. You spend 2 hours making sure they get the thing. And it's the reassurance, the people liking their photo, where they actually get their self-worth from. So basically, the studies are showing that they feel prettier and they feel more popular and more interesting. Because this is being dictated of an image of themselves on Facebook. So it's not how you're feeling in yourself, it's how is she seeming to feel in her selfie. At the very least, you're lying by omission.
Smiling depression. So this is, people are trying to show that their life is perfect and wonderful on social media.
And you're living up to an unachievable ideal. And the other thing is that basically, I mean, this is where it gets into it, okay? People lie on Facebook. People lie. People lie on Instagram. They lie on Twitter to make themselves look better. What's strange is that basically you look at this and you get this other thing where people are looking at Facebook and it makes them feel depressed because everyone else's life is so much more spectacular than theirs. Everyone is so much more interesting. But this is not true. I mean, the gambling thing, the addictive nature of Facebook is because social information is important, right? Okay, you know how to make a fire and I can figure out how to make a fire, then I might not die tonight. Okay, that's valuable social information. If I can figure out how you managed to, make that spectacular investment or whatever, this is valuable social information that I can improve my life with. So social information is of importance. So what you're doing with Facebook is you're essentially gambling with social information. You're either picking things up or you're putting things out to try and get appraised by other people.
So gambling with social information.
Yeah, you put a post.
Facebook is a bit like your roulette table.
Yeah.
And the chips are social information that you're putting out or getting back.
Yeah, so you make a gamble, like something like I'm a big fan of the Kardashians. Bang, 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 bang. All right, let's just see how the chips roll. Now, what's going to happen with that is that basically you're going to get some sort of response. You get likes and stuff like that. That's brilliant. You get this dopamine response, serotonin response in your brain.
So just slow down a bit, Neil. A dopamine response when you get a like.
Yeah.
It's because not everyone will have used social media who's watching this program, Neil.
There's a thumb thing, and
everyone has a profile on Facebook, and whenever you give any information out to your group, other people can like that, and then you then get that fed back. Yeah.
Yeah, basically. So
that gives a dopamine release when you get a like.
Yeah, which can become addictive, and also it can become crushing when you don't get that response. So what might you do? well, you might notice that that type of joke, that type of post gets more likes than others. These, and I've lost a load of friends. I'm not going to post those type, I'm going to post this type. So what would you do? You might start to cater your output so that you're more popular on Facebook. Sooner or later, you're going to realise that your Facebook profile is more popular than you. Because it's the edited highlights. You've certainly got more friends than you. So what might a sensible reaction to do if you want to be more popular in real life? Alter yourself so that you're more like your Facebook profile.
The first time I noticed that, Neil, was a website called Friends Reunited, which goes back further than the social media sites. It's probably one of the first ones, I guess. This was specifically for people who wanted to keep in touch from their school or college days. And I remember going on it was my school class, and I felt really inferior to everyone who was in my class because they were all managing directors, chief sales executives. They'd flown all around the world, been to the moon, you name it, right?
Yeah, well, I mean,
so I put on there that I was deceased. I got so sick of it.
Well, yeah, I mean, but this is the point.
Even that, I guess I'm trying to sort of send a message out even by saying that, aren't I?
Well, yeah, I mean, very possibly, but I mean, this is the point. People tend to lie. I mean, even if they don't.
That was a lie. Yeah.
Well, even if they don't, even if they don't lie, okay, you lie by omission. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that basically, I'll be kind. You're too fascinating. You're too multifaceted for you to put every minutiae of your day on there. So what you're going to do, you put the edited highlights. By lying like that, even if you're making very, very subtle lies, your subconscious knows you're lying. What does that do? It breeds depression. So you've got this feedback loop of narcissism and depression and the need to be validated by others who are also narcissistic and depressed due to the nature of the medium, basically.
Now then, Neil, we've not touched yet on whether the phenomenon of social media and Facebook is an accident or whether there's some guiding finger sort of manipulating people into these kinds of behaviours. So just tell us about Kubark and the Kubark document. Is that did we come out of that now?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, the Kubark document was based on the experimentation of Ewan Cameron and William Sargent, and these were the people that were basically wiping people's minds with LSD and electroshock to be allowing repatterning, or basically putting in a new personality.
So this is mind control research in the 1960s?
Yeah, 50s, 60s and later, basically, in Canada and in London at St Thomas's Hospital in London, and that was William Sargent. One of the things that sort of came out of these experiments was the Kubark document. The Kubark document is a torture manual. It's still used in Guantanamo Bay and places like that. The point of it is the most effective way to reduce people to like a vegetative state in order to, make them more malleable in interrogation, or just to basically just ruin them, like as a torture method. And the two principal things that are required for this is isolation and overstimulation. And this is why you put people in solitary confinement, but have white noise playing or have the light on, because your brain can't cope with the combination. So the isolation and the overstimulation causes your brain to snap. Now, what is bizarre is that basically social media encourages those very circumstances. You're isolated, but you're definitely overstimulated because you're following all these different sort of threads, and your brain doesn't know which way to go. Basically.
So if you're using Facebook, you're isolated and you're overstimulated. Bear that in mind, and we're going to expand on this after the break. Welcome back. I'm talking to Neil Sanders about social media and in particular Facebook, and he was just pointing out that this document, the Kubark document, which is a torture manual, recommends overstimulation and isolation as a means of breaking down someone, and we find both of these phenomena in social media. And we're going to come on to whether or not social media is an orchestration rather than just some accident that people happen to have let's say, developed through their own social interaction. You believe it's far more sinister than that.
The gist of it is that basically there were certain people that put in, say, like $500,000. I think it was Peter Thiel. He put in $500,000, which half. It's a substantial